Hello and good evening, friends. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Charts with CA Mohit Sareen, 10F Analytics, a SEBI registered research analyst. बाकी हमने बहुत सारे डिस्क्लेमर्स डाल के रखे हैं बिकॉज इन द डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स बिकॉज यू नीड टू नो कि whom यू आर वॉचिंग और कितने रिलायबल कोई हो सकते हैं. सो वी आर अ सेबी रजिस्टर्ड रिसर्च एनालिस्ट एंड आप डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स को बहुत ध्यान से पढ़ना. हम आज जिनके बारे में बात करने वाले हैं और हम जिनसे आज बहुत सारा डिस्कशन करने वाले हैं उनके बारे में भी मैंने कुछ डिटेल्स डाल के रखी है और हमारे बारे में भी हमने कुछ लिख के रखा है. सो इट इज़ ऑलवेज प्रूडेंट टू नो whom यू आर वॉचिंग. तो अभी लेट्स टॉक कि आज हम लोग क्या बात करने वाले हैं, किनसे बात करने वाले हैं. टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू टॉक टू मिस्टर संदीप मज, जो कि एक मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर रहे हैं. ही completed his mechanical engineering in the year 2012. Currently he is situated in Bangalore और LNT में उन्होंने 2012-13 से करीब 2015 तक जॉब भी करी है. एंड उसके बाद सिंस 2020 2016 he has been a full time investor and trader in the Indian stock markets. अगर उनकी एक्सपर्टीज की बात करें तो संदीप जी ही इज एन एक्सपर्ट इन द फील्ड ऑफ स्मार्ट मनी फ्लो. मतलब मैं पहले इंट्रोड्यूस कर देता हूँ व्हाट डू मीन बाय स्मार्ट मनी फ्लो. स्मार्ट मनी फ्लो इज बेसिकली कि जो इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टर्स है लाइक दी फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर्स, दी इंस्टीट्यूशनल DIIs, दी HNIs, वो जो इन्वेस्टर्स होते हैं दे आर कॉल्ड स्मार्ट इन्वेस्टर्स. तो उनका जो पैसा होता है वो स्मार्ट मनी होता है. तो वो किस तरह से मूव करता है और उसको हम लोग किस तरह से यूज कर सकते हैं, उस फील्ड में संदीप मज्ज जी एक्सपर्ट हैं. सो अभी संदीप सर भी ट्राई कर रहे हैं टू कनेक्ट. होपफुली विद इन अ मिनट और टू ही विल बी विद अस. सो वेलकम संदीप जी, गुड इवनिंग. सर यू आर नॉट ऑडिबल सर. तो जो ये स्मार्ट मनी का फ्लो होता है
Yeah, Moji,
क्या,
I can hear you.
सर वेरी वेरी थैंकफुल फॉर योर प्रेजेंस हियर एंड यू आर मोस्ट वेलकम टू द चैनल सर.
Thank
आज
you.
हमारे
Thank
जितने भी
you.
फॉलोअर्स हैं, बहुत सारे सब्सक्राइबर्स हैं, दे आर गोइंग टू बी लर्निंग अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स फ्रॉम यू. सो लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू योर इनपुट्स. सर मैंने आपका इंट्रोडक्शन तो दे दिया है सबको एंड अ लॉट ऑफ
Okay.
पीपल ऑलरेडी नो यू. सो
Sure.
दैट इज रियली अ गुड थिंग फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस. तो
Yeah.
सर लेट्स गेट क्रैकिंग.
Sure.
Sir, I saw that you started your investing journey in the year 2016,
हाँ
and
जी.
you are basically a mechanical engineer from BVB College, Hubli, right, sir?
Right. Right. Right,
तो
Moji.
सर अचानक से how did you know what induced you into joining the stock markets? ऐसा क्या interesting लगा आपको that caught your attention, so you shifted your whole career to the stock markets?
Right. So usually क्या होता है, since we come from a middle class family, क्या होता है, most of our parents were not into the markets. To be honest, they were against the markets, है ना? So my journey with the market started, I would say, in 2007. जब वो तेजी आई थी from 2003 to 2007, right?
Right, sir.
So in that, I think most of the first time investors they got in. And my father did a SIP at the end, that is 2007. और वो SIP after the 2008 crash ना, फिर वापस आने में लग गई almost 4 years. In 2011, it came to break even, right? So I was against it. But then what happened once I got my job, I went to Gujarat. और आपको पता ही है, most of the Gujaratis, they are into the stock market. So I met a few there who kind of taught me, in the sense वो पहले tips देते थे and I was doing that based on tips. But then when you do on tips in a bull market you make money, but once the bear market comes you end up losing most of it, right?
Right.
So but एक बंदा ऐसा मिला who told me कि this is not सट्टा. If you read the companies, if you understand the business, if you read valuation, then you can make money, right? So that is when I kind of read a few books, and to be honest मुझे full time नहीं करना था ये. I left my job to do some kind of a business. But then since I left my job at the right time, that is 2016, आपको भी पता है, 2016-17, that crazy bull market, especially in the border market, right?
Yes.
So in that I made so much, I mean, decent amount of money कि मुझे लगा ये तो आसान है. Why not full focus इसी पे करते हैं and improvise in this field itself.
राइट. सो सर, व्हाट वाज योर फीलिंग? मतलब थोड़ा डर तो लगा होगा, बिकॉज अ जॉब इज बेसिकली यू नो कि एक बहुत सिक्योरिटी रहता है, एक फाइनेंशियल सिक्योरिटी इज देयर इन द
Right,
जॉब, बट इन
right.
मार्केट्स अल्टीमेटली एवरीवन नोज दैट देयर इज some kind of risk. So how did you
True.
manage that uncertainty of financials?
Right. So since it was in that bull market, right, I was actually making much more than that what I was making in my job, right?
Right.
So वो 2 साल I never felt that insecurity
Okay.
because every month whatever you're buying it is moving up. Very
Right.
similar to in the last 1 year, right?
Right.
Whatever you bought, it has kind of moved higher.
Right.
So it was that. But the actual pain that you're talking about, right? That happened in 2018-19
Okay.
when the broader market was in a much deeper correction and every month it used to go lower, 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 right?
Right.
So
Right.
that is when, from a pure fundamental guy, I started moving towards trading. Trading in the sense, learn technicals, because मुझे लगा कि सिर्फ फंडामेंटल करने से you can make wealth in the long run.
Right.
But let's say आपको घर भी चलाना है, then you have to do trading,
Right.
right? So
Right.
that was the period from 2018, 2019 till end of 2019. That is when I kind of developed this trading method.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I mean, using which you can make money even in a sideways kind of a market.
Right, right. Sir, matlab everyone basically knows you for this accumulation and distribution method. Sir,
Right.
can you explain this thing for our viewers?
Yeah.
मतलब बिल्कुल as if some an
हाँ.
investor who's very very new to the markets, he is
Sure.
listening to you.
Okay.
तो आप बिल्कुल simple words में please could you explain it?
श्योर मोहित जी. सो बेसिकली एक्यूमुलेशन डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन जो है इसको पहले वाइकॉफ करके एक बंदा है. ही एक्चुअली कॉइंड दैट टर्म accumulation डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, है ना. तो वो यूएस मार्केट्स के लिए इट वर्क्स रियली वेल. एंड देन ऑन दैट देयर इज अ पर्सन कॉल्ड स्टैन मीनस्टीन हु इम्प्रोवाइज्ड इट विद अ फ्यू मोर इंडिकेटर्स,
Right,
राइट. मेरा जो मेथड है दैट इज स्पेसिफिकली फॉर द इंडियन मार्केट्स, स्पेशली इन द स्मॉल एंड मिड कैप्स. यहाँ पे व्हाट डू वी ट्राई टू डू विद दिस मेथड इज अंडरस्टैंड where exactly the big guys are, or let's say smart monies. जो smart money है, that can be a mutual fund, that can be a
right,
PMS, that can be a HNI. So
right,
those guys do their research, do their homework, and then they start buying something. So when they start buying something, we kind of try to understand it from the charts ki, okay, this is where the buying is coming in. It can be a stock specific or sector specific or the whole market में क्या हो रहा है, you can get to know from the data. So
right,
this data we kind of understand and know whether they're buying it or they are starting to dump it, right?
okay.
So accumulation हम उसको बोलते हैं जब वो buy करते हैं, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then distribution when they start selling it to the retail, and then the retail usually gets trapped by buying those shares at the top levels.
Right, right. Okay. So, अभी मार्केट काफी दिनों से एवरीवन इज वेरी पिस्ड ऑफ विद द मार्केट. बहुत
Right.
सारे स्टॉक्स बहुत बड़े बड़े करेक्शन हो रहे हैं और इंडिसेस भी काफी ज्यादा करेक्ट हुई है इन दिनों.
हाँ जी.
सो व्हाट इज योर टेक ऑन दिस?
सर मोहित जी, यूजुअली क्या होता है, देर इज एन इकोनॉमिक साइकिल बिहाइंड दिस, है ना. सो इफ यू लुक एट दैट इकोनॉमिक साइकिल, ये 3 साल राइट फ्रॉम 2021, क्योंकि 2020 वाज अ वॉश आउट ईयर,
या.
एवरीथिंग वाज डाउन. सो 2021 से द इकोनॉमिक साइकिल अगेन स्टार्टेड. सो 21, 22, 23, एंड नाउ एट द फैग एंड ऑफ 24 वी आर राइट नाउ. बट आप अगर देखेंगे ना, तो 24 अप्रैल से ही, उसके बाद से ये स्लो डाउन चालू हो चुका है, राइट. You are seeing slowdown in consumption.
राइट.
People are not buying because it is a cycle kind of a thing also. Because every 3 years you move up and then you start cooling off, and then again bearish or a consolidation phase happens,
राइट.
and then it moves up again, right?
राइट.
So currently we are in that phase जहाँ पे you will not make that 35-40% CAGR जो पिछले 3-4 साल से कर रहे थे, right? So my advice to them would be टेक इट अ लिटिल स्लो. इफ यू आर अ लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर तो डरने की कोई बात नहीं है, बिकॉज
राइट.
लेट से वी आर मूविंग फ्रॉम लेट टू 3 trillion right now, the Indian economy from 3 trillion, probably 10 trillion, 15 trillion in the next decade or two.
Right. Any specific sectors that you are very bullish on or maybe very bearish on also?
So bullish on, I'll talk about. Bearish बात नहीं करूंगा. Many people don't like it when I say I'm bearish on a particular sector. So bullish की अगर हम बात करते हैं तो pharma. So after the Donald Trump he got elected, right? So chances are the China plus one strategy should work, and a lot of these API companies, especially in India, that should benefit, right? And also contract manufacturing जो है, that should also come to the Indian pharma players. So
Right.
that is one space. And even if you look at the hospital segment as a whole, वहाँ पे भी because of the health insurance, जो अभी फिलहाल most of them are getting serious and they are taking
Right.
these health insurance, right? And
Right.
that should also help most of these hospital stocks. Although valuation
Right.
अभी ऐसा है कि most of them जहाँ पे उनको लगता है कि undervalued है, the smart money kind of enters it and kind of pushes it higher. It is
Right.
very rare that you find anything very cheap in this kind of a market after a 3 year bull run. The only way is कि मतलब smaller companies जहाँ पे these big guys usually don't play because of the SEBI regulations and all of that. They are not allowed to play in them. So those are the pockets where one can find like a very good company even trading at decent valuations.
Right. Talking about these hospital companies,
हाँ जी.
I think you'll also agree that the smart money has been flowing there, and the FPIs also they've been lesser selling in this sector, right, for
Right,
the
right.
last 1 2 months, right?
Yeah, right, Mochi.
So that's a good sector. Uh, Abhi, like what happened on Friday, yesterday,
Yes.
that was a little funny. Pura market was up all day, और उसके बाद suddenly around 2:30 3 p.m.
Right.
you see the some news relating to Ukraine and Russia that comes in, and उसके बाद the market starts
Correcting
to the losing all the gains that it had made during the morning session.
morning
So,
session.
how do you manage these kind of volatile situations?
Right. So usually, Mochi, anyways, I was out, so I was not really watching the market as such yesterday. But usually on days like this, like let's say what happened on 4th of June, wherein we went down 8, 10%,
Yes,
12%, right?
yes,
So during such times, I generally tend to play more on the data, right?
okay,
So if the data is kind of good, usually, I mean, just to give you an example, what happens is whenever some big players buy a particular stock at a certain level, right? They're buying it because they feel it is undervalued or let's say reasonably valued at that point,
right,
right?
right,
So
right,
eventually, if you hold on to them, it is going to go back above those levels because no a big player or let's say a mutual fund would buy a stock to sell it at a lower level,
right,
right?
right,
So usually that conviction one has to gain, and that usually only comes after, let's say, a few years being in the market. Such volatile swings are going to be a part of the market, probably are going to be more in the coming days.
right,
Even on the upside, you might see a very solid bounce that comes in, and again from there, a very volatile down move can also come in.
right.
So on
Good,
such days, if you're an investor, मुझे मैं आपको मतलब for our viewers, it is better to remove your app और हर 5 मिनट में देखना बंद कर दीजिए, क्योंकि क्या हो जाता है, you are sitting on let's say 5 lakhs of profit, and when that comes to 4 lakhs, you'll start worrying, and then let's say
right,
it dips to even 3 lakhs, you'll be like सब साफ कर देंगे, we'll exit everything and we'll
right,
sit out. Right.
right,
So if you're
right,
a
right,
long
right,
term investor, it is better not to watch the market continuously.
right,
Analyze the business on a fundamental.
right.
Right.
Sir, have you decided on any levels that you are looking in Nifty, Bank Nifty for this financial year 25?
सर लेवल्स में, आई मीन टू बी ऑनेस्ट, आई डोंट प्ले विद टारगेट्स. ये
Okay,
टारगेट का मुझे बिल्कुल समझ में नहीं आता, बिकॉज until and unless the money starts coming in and buying, we can't be sure of a target, right? So
right,
my this thing approach is more towards, are we seeing buying coming back? To be honest, the FI have slowly reduced their selling. The intensity of selling जो था पहले उतना
hmm,
नहीं है अभी. whatever we saw in October, it has reduced drastically. But even the DII buying had come down. But in the last 2-3 sessions, the DII buying आप देखेंगे that has
हम्म,
started picking up. So
right,
that gives us hope कि probably the bottom is somewhere near. And once we see FIS बिल्कुल zero हो जाएगा उनका selling, नहीं तो if they start buying again, we might see a pretty decent rally also in the
right,
coming days.
right. uh, which is your favorite, long term investing or short term, trading, or कौन सा
So
ज्यादा पसंद आता है?
so for quick gratification मैं क्या बोलता हूँ, whenever you do a trade ना, you feel very good कि इतना
Right,
परसेंट मैंने बनाया.
right,
बट टू क्रिएट वेल्थ आई वुड से मोहित जी कि आपको इन्वेस्टर ही बनना है. यू कैन नॉट क्रिएट वेल्थ बाय बाइंग समथिंग एंड सेलिंग इट फॉर 20-30%.
right,
अगर आपको करना है सो डिसेंट अमाउंट इन अ पर्टिकुलर स्टॉक विच यू नो कैन ग्रो 2x 3x 5x इन द लॉन्ग रन, लेट्स से 2 साल 5 साल. अभी इफ यू टेल समवन की यू कैन डू 2-3x इन 5 years, दे लाफ एट यू बिकॉज एक एक साल में ही हुआ है उतना,
right,
राइट?
right,
But that is bull market. But
right,
if you're reasonable enough and have a modest expectation from the market, then it is not difficult to find such stocks which can give you like 2-3x in 5 year period.
right, right. So talk again, coming back to accumulation and distribution.
हाँ जी.
How can one integrate this concept of accumulation and distribution in their trading,
Right.
and on the in their investing also?
Right.
And मतलब especially for the beginners, how do they
Hmm.
integrate this accumulation and distribution thing?
Right. So usually what I do is once I look at the data and see this is the sector that they're buying. Usually what happens, Mohit, when something there is a tailwind for a sector, even before the retail gets to know, right? Because so many research analysts are there and all of them,
Right,
they kind of do their homework, tell the companies to buy it. So once they start buying, you would know that there is something happening. And if
right,
you read the papers, read the news, you would come to know that key this is what is happening in that sector. That is why you're seeing that buying coming in. So
right,
looking at the price movement, looking at the volumes, you can understand that, okay, this is where the buying is coming in. And from that, we can trade. Investing may, what I generally do is, if I've, let's say, bought something and then it has moved 30-40%, it is not going to go up 200% in a straight way.
right,
20-30% it will move up, then have a 10% correction. Again, usually these mutual
right,
funds will again buy at those levels,
right,
Mohit. So
right.
वहां पे you can pyramid it. So investing is all about pyramiding your winners and cutting out on your losers,
Losers.
right? So
Perfect.
it can be used in both trading as well as investing. Whenever they buy, you also buy, because at the end of the day, it is them who move the markets.
Right,
Many people say कि retail ने इतना buying कर लिया है, but retail directly has not bought it, right? Retail has put their money in a mutual fund and the mutual fund has bought it, whatever
right,
selling the FIs have been doing, right?
right.
So that if we track what the mutual funds are doing, we should be in
Mm-hmm.
a good spot.
Okay. Without revealing the name of the stock,
And
could you share one of your success stories when you used your accumulation distribution strategy and you
right.
made a huge amount of money in a comparatively shorter period of time, maybe within a year or so?
Right. So this is February 2020 when I was seeing clear accumulation in most of the pharma companies.
Okay.
Right. So this was even before the COVID news that came in March 23, 2020, when the COVID crash happened, right, Mohanji? So usse
Yes.
pehle hi, from the data and all, you could clearly make out that the smart money were already moving into all these pharma names,
Okay.
right? So that is where I kind of had almost like 50-60% of my portfolio in those names. And you know what happened after COVID, right?
Right.
All of those
Right.
pharma, especially the API stocks, just went up like crazy.
Right.
So that would be like my best 1 year after the COVID crash.
Right. Um, Then, talking about the retail investors, our main focus for this whole series
Mhm.
is to develop an understanding amongst the retail investors so
Right,
that they also get the knowledge and they can save themselves from any, any negative impact that could happen because of some wrong decisions that they may take due
right,
to inexperience, basically.
right.
So, what do you think are the most common mistakes that the retail investors generally make
Mhm.
and how they could avoid those mistakes.
राइट सो आई वुड टॉक अबाउट माई सेल्फ कि मैंने जो स्टार्टिंग में क्या क्या गलती की थी. राइट सो इनिशियली व्हाट वी डू वी एंड अप बाइंग समथिंग ऑन अ टिप. We don't know what the company does, what sector it is in, right?
Right,
So blindly trusting your money with someone who gives you a tip कि ये ले लो इतना जाएगा टारगेट.
right,
राइट
right.
सेकेंड थिंग इज टारगेट. ये टारगेट के चक्कर में लोग क्या बोलते हैं, दे बाय इट एट 200, someone gives them a target of let's say 1000 in the next 2 years.
Yes,
Even if it goes on to 150, they'll keep on averaging it.
yes,
They don't know what the company is, क्या कर रहा है, but average करना है, right? So these stuff, and also to be honest, Mohan ji, maybe initially few 6 months you can watch the news to understand how the market works, but after some time ये news देखना भी बंद कर देना चाहिए,
right,
right? So
right.
if you look at any of these big investors, they don't keep on looking at the news. But if
Right.
you look at a small retail investors, they are hooked on to the news the whole
Yes.
day, right?
Right, right,
So
right,
maybe initial part just to understand market kaisi chalti and all of that, you can get a this thing of that. But after that, it is all about reading and understanding the markets better.
so what has been the biggest challenge as a trader,
Mhm.
and how do you overcome that?
The biggest challenge would be psychology, I would say, Mohit ji. It is very difficult to control emotions, especially if you're trading in, let's say, FNO, which even I tried because it is very tempting to see someone is making this much money in such a short period, right?
Right,
But to be honest, most of them, like the SEBI, this thing is also there, 99% or 93% of them make loss,
right,
right?
right,
Because you can't control your emotions. As long as you're winning, you will be very excited. But the day it starts going against you, आपका दिमाग बोलेगा कि आज हाउ कैन यू लूज, एंड वो
right,
रिवेंज ट्रेडिंग स्टार्ट हो जाता है.
right.
जैसे मान के चलिए आपने आज लॉस किया, यू विल बी लाइक एटलीस्ट ब्रेक इवन पे आता हूं मैं, है ना,
Correct,
वो फिर से
correct,
ट्रेड लेने का. सो बाय डूइंग दैट यू एंड अप ब्लोइंग द होल अकाउंट,
right,
right? So
right,
that psychology is very important, and what I feel is only through experience one can overcome that. मतलब, you can tell someone not to do it, but until he does it, burns his hand, he will not understand what it is,
so
right?
to be very specific, then matlab, what should one do? Like for
Mhm.
example, I regularly practice meditation
Right,
to keep my mind calm and to control my emotions, because
right.
in investing, trading, whatever you
Mm.
say, a lot of patience is
Correct.
required and you need to have control of your mind basically.
True.
So what would you suggest to the new investors, so that they can practice that and control their emotions and not
Right,
lose money basically because
right.
of their psychological discrepancies?
Right. So to be honest, I go for walks. So वो भी मुझे मतलब the morning walks, right? It
Hmm.
helps me calm my mind. I usually play some music and then just keep walking, not talking to anyone, because many people end up talking to someone while they walk. तो वो
Right,
मतलब you're not letting the mind reset, I would say. So just walk, don't think about anything. So that would help you calm down. और उसके बाद usually it helps you keep, I mean, be rational while taking these trades. And also stop loss is something really important. Never trade without a stop loss, right?
right,
नेवर, मतलब बहुत सारे लोग जो है वो होप ट्रेडिंग करते हैं मोहित जी. मतलब उनको पता है कि ये नीचे जा रहा है, वो स्टॉप लॉस हटा हटा देते हैं, राइट?
right,
बाय डूइंग दैट यू आर ओनली रिस्किंग मोर,
right,
राइट? सो माय एडवाइस टू देम नॉट टू लूज मनी वुड बी, until you learn it, go with a registered person who can guide them, right? Or keep your money in some mutual fund, right? Who know how to play all these
right,
stuff,
right.
right?
um, Coming to the tools and resources,
Mhm.
would you like to recommend any kind of tools or apps or maybe some platform that
Sure.
new investors and new traders could, they could observe and they could check, so that like
Right.
you gave an example of watching television news at the
Mhm.
beginning stage, so that they can get a hang of things ki how the market works, how
Right.
stocks work, and how the prices are moving.
Yeah. Right.
So, are there any tools, like any apps or any platforms that you would suggest to the new investors?
Sure. So the ones that I use are basically, अगर आपको investing करनी है, you want to filter out great quality stocks which for, I mean, are in this valuation, are growing at certain percentage and all of that, then I would say Screener is something that I use.
Okay.
and it has helped me a lot. If someone is trading for the charts and all of that, I use trading view. Charting is a mix of both, where one can use both fundamentals as well as technical filters
Right.
to arrive at those great stocks
Right.
which they can trade or invest. So
Right.
these would be the three I would suggest.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to give a disclaimer that
Sure.
we are not promoting any kind of app
Right.
or something. These names have been taken just for the benefit of the retail investors, and personally also I use all these apps that Sandeep sir has mentioned. So यहाँ पे कोई प्रमोशन नहीं हो रहा है. So that is a disclosure. Again, क्या होता है कि all the big investors, when you watch their interviews, everyone is
Mm.
focused on explaining to the new people that you should read a lot, right?
Right.
You should do a lot of reading. Matlab,
Mm.
reading is required because when you are fundamentally analyzing a company, you need to read the annual reports, you need to read the transcripts of the con calls, you need to read the notes to accounts, and for personal development also you do need to read a lot of investing books, a lot of personal development books and all. So what kind of books did you read during when you were starting, and
Right.
which books, which top two, three, four books you would like to suggest the new investors to read so that they can get the basics of it, and a lot of psychology they should get from that.
Right. So, one of the best books that I have read, I'll just speak about them. So, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So, वहाँ पे he kind of explains what the rich do, which the poor don't. Right.
Right.
So, वहाँ पे आपको एक ये आ जाता है कि ये करना है अगर मुझे फाइनेंशियली फ्री होना है. So,
Right.
then this is what I should do. Right. So,
Right.
उसके बाद I read something called as Dhando Investor by Monish Pabrai.
Monish
Right.
Pabrai. Right.
सो
Right.
दैट टेल्स यू कि इन्वेस्टमेंट अगर आप कर रहे हैं तो वो कैसा रहना चाहिए. हिज मेथड इज हेड्स यू विन, टेल्स यू डोंट लूज मच.
Right.
अगर आप किसी चीज को बाय कर रहे हैं, अगर गलत भी होता है यू लूज वेरी लिटिल. अगर सही
Right.
होता है देन यू मेक बम्पर रिटर्न्स.
Right.
राइट. सो
Right.
उसके बाद पीटर लिंच, आई थिंक वन ऑफ द बेस्ट इन्वेस्टर्स आउट देयर, पीटर लिंच.
Absolutely.
तो उनका बुक है हाउ, व्हाट इज दैट, बीटिंग द
How
स्ट्रीट. सो
beating
बीटिंग
the
द
street.
स्ट्रीट इज वेरी गुड.
Yeah.
So उसके बाद you can even for the Indian market something called as coffee can compounding by Saurabh Mukherjee, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
gives you an idea how an investor can make money, and also a few points like capex, ROCE, these terms, how important are they when you're investing, right?
Right. Right.
And then the last one I would say for an investor would be How to Make Money in Stocks by William O'Neill, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that is also a fantastic book. बट मुझे ट्रेडिंग में एक ही बुक आई हैव रेड, टू बी ऑनेस्ट. अभी फिलहाल 2022 में मैंने दूसरा बुक रीड किया है. बट
Okay.
इन 2018 व्हेन आई वाज गोइंग टू दैट बैड फेज, आई
Mm-hmm.
रेड अ बुक ऑन दिस ट्रेडिंग बाय जेसी लिवरमोर, हाउ टू ट्रेड इन स्टॉक्स.
Okay.
बहुत पुराना बुक है, वेरी स्मॉल बुक.
Mm-hmm.
He talks more on the psychology,
Okay.
right? So if someone wants to build a psychology of a trader, then that book I would recommend. And Filal 2022, every bear market teaches me something, Mohitji. So
Right.
2022 bear market is when I learned these stage-wise analysis by Stan Weinstein,
Yes.
the profiting from bull and bear
Bull
market.
and bear markets.
That
Right.
is the book that I read
Right.
recently.
Right.
So
Right.
these two trading books I would definitely recommend
Right.
people to read it.
The viewers, they should definitely note these list of the books down, और अभी से बाय करके एक एक करके पढ़ना स्टार्ट कर दो. स्टार्ट विद रिच डैड पुअर डैड, और
Right.
वहां से फिर स्टार्ट बिल्डिंग, बिकॉज पर्सनल फिनांस इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट.
True.
बिकॉज वंस यू अंडरस्टैंड पर्सनल फिनांस, देन ओनली यू आर गोइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड कि हाउ टू मेक मनी. मतलब इफ यू नो कि हाउ टू मैनेज money, then it is a good idea to study about making money and the psychology behind it. Okay. So that was very important for the new investors. Moving ahead, sir, what do you think about cryptocurrencies? अभी US में when Trump won the elections, उसके बाद से the cryptocurrencies have been on fire.
Right.
बहुत वन डे का रिटर्न्स आर ह्यूज ह्यूज. मतलब
Huge.
स्टॉक मार्केट्स में जो बुल रन आया लास्ट ईयर इन आवर कंट्री, वो तो कुछ भी नहीं लगता है इन द बुल रन
Right.
दैट द क्रिप्टो करेंसीज आर
Right.
सीइंग in the
Right.
last few days. So
Right.
what do you think about that?
So crypto, to be honest, Mohit, I've never traded in them also. सो इतना मुझे नॉलेज है भी नहीं. एंड सिंस आई एम नॉट फ्रॉम एन आईटी बैकग्राउंड, टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट ब्लॉकचेन इज एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट इज आल्सो डिफिकल्ट फॉर मी. So,
हम्म.
but if you look at them, every 4 years they have a rally. 2016 देख लीजिए, 20 अभी 24 खत्म होना है. But to be honest, I still don't understand cryptos, so I can't really give my positive or my negative on that particular
राइट.
thing.
राइट. सो बिग लर्निंग फॉर द व्यूअर्स. जो चीज के बारे में पता नहीं उसके बारे में सोचना भी नहीं है. इफ यू
Right.
वांट टू लर्न अबाउट इट आप लर्न कर लो, बट अगर
Right.
क्रिप्टो नहीं समझते हो तो क्रिप्टो में ट्रेड करने का किसी कोई चैनल फॉलो करके या कहीं पे कोई एक टेलीग्राम में किसी चैनल से देख के या कहीं से भी देख के कभी भी नहीं करना है until and unless you understand the whole concept.
Right.
Because cryptocurrency is actually a very complex kind of a thing. और समझना इट्स नॉट दैट इजी. सो
Right.
जब तक कोई चीज कोई एसेट क्लास समझ में ना आए तो उसमें इन्वेस्ट नहीं करना है बिल्कुल भी. राइट.
Right.
Moving ahead, say if someone is starting out today as an investor and
Mm-hmm.
as a मतलब someone has just graduated from the college and they got a new job and they are just starting out.
Right.
So what would be your advice to these
Mm-hmm.
youngsters? Because अभी
Right.
क्या हो रहा है कि the youngsters are a lot involved into spending money.
Right.
मतलब I remember when I graduated, I got my first job. Then I did not have that concept of spending too much. We were mostly into saving,
True.
right?
True.
मतलब जो एक शुद्ध देसी middle class, we were that kind of people. But
Right.
looking at my cousins, looking at my juniors, अभी देखते हैं तो दे वेरी इजीली स्टार्ट स्पेंडिंग मनी एंड उनको डर भी नहीं लगता है पैसे खर्च करने में.
Right.
तो व्हाट वुड बी द एडवाइस फॉर दीज यंगस्टर्स हु आर कमिंग आउट
राइट.
इन द
सो
मार्केट
उनके
जस्ट
लिए
नाउ?
आई थिंक द बेस्ट बुक वुड बी रिच डैड पुअर डैड, जहाँ पे वो बोलते हैं ना दैट द पुअर वर्क फॉर मनी वेयर एज द रिच मेक मनी वर्क फॉर देम. सो
राइट.
वंस दे गेट दैट कॉन्सेप्ट ना, वो अपने आप ही करना सेव करना स्टार्ट कर देंगे.
राइट.
Right, so
राइट.
that is very important. And for them, what I would suggest is, instead of trying their hands on the market themselves, because now if they are doing it now, because for the next probably 1 year the things might not be that easy. It is something similar to this, मोहित जी. अगर आप साइकिल बैलेंस करना सीख रहे हैं तो आप
राइट.
डाउनहिल में सीखेंगे, बराबर.
करेक्ट.
तो दैट डाउनहिल इज लाइक बुल मार्केट.
राइट.
अब जो भी करोगे, जितना भी गिरोगे, उतना ये नहीं होगा आपको. फिर से मार्केट
राइट.
विल मूव अप एंड यू मेक मनी.
राइट.
कोई भी अपहिल में साइकिल करना नहीं सीखता है. सो नाउ मान के चलिए वो अपहिल आ रहा है, राइट. सो बेस्ट थिंग वुड बी वेरी लिटिल अमाउंट. यू कैन स्टार्ट ट्रेडिंग टू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ द होल थिंग वर्क्स, राइट. आप अपने से कर रहे हैं. सो टू बी ऑनेस्ट, बेयर मार्केट्स आर योर बेस्ट टीचर्स अनलेस दे यूटिलाइज इट. दे
राइट.
लर्न हाउ टू ट्रेड. अगर आपको बेयर मार्केट में ट्रेडिंग आ गई ना, देन इन बुल मार्केट में तो इट इज लाइक यू आर जस्ट गोइंग विद द फ्लो,
राइट.
right?
राइट.
So SIPs I would suggest for those who are just getting into the market, so that let an expert do it for them.
Right. Super. Sir, how is your trading day? The day when you are trading,
Mhm.
what's the routine that you follow during the day? आप कैसे start करते हैं और how do you take the trades? Then उसके बाद what happens if you have a big profit trade and what happens if you end up hitting stop losses?
Right. So usually मेरा analysis पिछले दिन ही खत्म हो जाता है, मोहित जी.
Okay.
Like I don't do it on that particular day. So what happens is, the previous day when the data is out, I understand where the money is flowing and all of that, right? And the next day, what I do is, usually at 9 is when I started. So देखना है कि these are the stocks wherein the money is flowing. How are they doing? Are they above certain moving averages? That is very important for me, because that kind of tells us कि whether they are showing strength or not. So अगर वो है, then you kind of, so day trading is something that I've left long back, because that is like too much pressure.
Right.
बट मोस्टली आई एम इनटू स्विंग. सो वहां पे क्या करते हैं, वी टेक ट्रेड्स, और लेट्स से आई टेक ट्रेड्स, एंड देन डोंट लुक एट द स्क्रीन. अगर आप स्क्रीन देखते रह जाओगे, देन यू एंड अप क्लोजिंग इट टू अर्ली, और लेट्स से पैनिकिंग एंड सेलिंग इट इवन बिफोर इट हिट्स योर स्टॉप लॉस,
Right.
राइट.
Right.
सो
Right.
वैसे होता है. वेन एवर आई एंड अप मेकिंग अ लॉट ऑफ मनी, तो यूजुअली द मूड इज प्रेटी गुड, like most of us have. But slowly I've taken, I mean, what used to happen is earlier when I used to have a bad day, वो पूरा दिन और 2-3 दिन तक वो चलता रहता है when you are not in that great mood.
राइट राइट
Especially
राइट
अगर आप फ्राइडे को लॉस कर देते ना तो पूरा वीकेंड गया आपका,
राइट
right?
राइट राइट
But so that is why I have stopped doing that day trading and thing. I just have short-term trades wherein you have keep a stop loss. Best thing is GTT पे stop loss रख दीजिए, ट्रिगर होता है, right?
राइट
You can't make money. The best thing for a trader is to understand that he can't be 100% right.
राइट
This is
राइट
something very difficult for a lot of people कि गलत कैसे हो गया.
गलत कैसे हो गया? करेक्ट 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 करेक्ट
गलत तो होगा ही because it is not a 100% thing, right?
राइट
Even if you come close to let's say 80-90%, then someone will call you God, right? Because उतना
एब्सोल्युटली
accuracy तो होता ही नहीं है, right?
करेक्ट
Our aim is to जो 50-50 है, whenever you take a trade it is 50-50, move up
राइट
or move down, right? तो
राइट
उसको 60 कैसे करना है, 65 कैसे करना है, that is our goal.
राइट
Not become 100% perfect in any trade.
राइट
But that comes only with the experience, I would say, Mohit ji. For a
राइट
new kid,
राइट
if you
राइट
tell
राइट
this, वो आपको ये बोलेगा कि आपको कुछ नहीं आता है.
ये तो अभी बहुत सुनने को मिलता है. मतलब अ लॉट ऑफ यंग किड्स इवन इफ दे डोंट टेल यू एट योर फेस,
Right?
बट वो साइड में, अरे सर को कुछ भी नहीं आता है, सर तो ऐसे ही बोलते हैं.
Right. Right, Mohit ji.
But yeah, some lessons in life are better learned the hard way, no? That
Right.
is also
हाँ
good.
वो भी है.
Like we did also sometime.
Correct. Correct, Mohit ji.
Coming to the lessons,
Hmm.
uh, can you share one memorable lesson जहाँ पे you had made some good loss, मतलब बड़ा
Right.
loss,
हाँ.
and what was the main learning from that loss for you?
Right. So this was 2018 January में.
Okay.
Like what I did, almost 50% of my portfolio
Mm-hmm.
एक ही स्टॉक में मैंने डाल दी थी. आई विल नॉट टेक द
Okay.
नेम, राइट?
Okay.
बिकॉज वो सिक्लिकल स्टॉक था एंड
अच्छा.
लुकिंग एट द पी 7-8 पी पे मिल रहा है.
Okay.
एंड यूजली हम क्या करते हैं, सिक्लिकल्स मोस्ट ऑफ अस डोंट अंडरस्टैंड. हमको
Right.
लगता है कि दीज आर ऑल्सो सेम लाइक द नॉन सिक्लिकल्स.
Correct.
बट सिक्लिकल्स में अगर सिंगल डिजिट पी में कोई आता है, दैट मीन्स इट इज टाइम टू सेल एक्चुअली,
Right.
राइट? तो
Right.
वो देख के मुझे उतना पता नहीं था बिकॉज आई वॉज मोस्टली अ फंडामेंटल गाय. और
Mm-hmm.
आई जस्ट बिगैन माई फुल टाइम जर्नी इन टू मार्केट्स बाई इन 2016. वो 3 साल में उतना तो नॉलेज आता नहीं है.
Right.
तो इन दैट सिक्लिकल आई टुक अ बिग बेट और वो नीचे जाता गया. आई एवरेज इट अ लिटिल, राइट? एंड देन
Okay.
वन फाइन डे वो उतना लॉस बेयर नहीं कर पा रहा था. तो आफ्टर अ 20 25% कट, राइट, आई सेड अभी पूरा साफ कर देते हैं इसको. सो दैट इज व्हेन आई रियलाइज कि never take above a certain percentage which will not let you sleep at night,
Right.
right? So
Right.
maximum, even now I go would be 10%.
Okay.
Usually 5% is what I'm keeping it at. But let's say you're very convinced ki this one will do really well, up to
Mm-hmm.
10% you can go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also cyclicals is something that I would suggest most of the retail investors to read because not many books talk about them.
Right.
Usually books, what they tell you buy something at low PE, low price to book, right? Earnings growth
Yes.
अच्छा है. So at the
Yes.
top of the cycle, earnings growth सब fantastic लगता है आपको,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So I would suggest people to first bifurcate with what is non-cyclical and what is cyclical, and then take the
Absolutely.
step forward.
Absolutely. In fact, last time when I was having a discussion with Prakash sir from
And
Plutus Advisors,
right,
he also suggested कि um, you can build smaller positions, maybe 2%, 3%
hmm,
for overall stocks of your portfolio. But
right,
the winners that you think you have your conviction for the
hmm,
winners, you just increase your position sizing and take it to maybe around 10%.
right,
So that also helps you building wealth in the
correct,
longer run. पैसा वहीं से बनता है.
right,
तो if some of your larger position stocks, if they do quite well, if they multiply
hmm,
2x, 3x, 4x in a short
right,
period of time, then you end up making wealth much faster if
correct,
you had only 2% of that stock in your stock in your portfolio, right?
true.
So that was these learnings are really very important. बहुत ध्यान से I would recommend all the viewers, बहुत ध्यान से, even after the live ends you should watch this video once again. प्रकाश सर वाला भी वीडियो एक बार जरूर देखो, नोट्स बनाओ, because See, ultimately, as you can also understand from today's discussion, ki what Sandeep sir is also telling, ki psychology is very, very important when you're trading, when you're investing. So if you have control over your mind, and if you know what you have to do in what kind of a situation, then you're going to be very safe, right? And ultimately, the objective is, although the objective is to make some money, but the priority should be to not lose
Right.
your capital at least,
Yes.
right?
Right.
uh, then ट्रेडिंग के बारे में, इन्वेस्टिंग के बारे में तो बहुत हो गया.
Yes.
What else do you like outside of trading, investing? What are your hobbies? What do you do to relax?
So I have a pet. So having a pet helps a lot, I would say.
Absolutely,
तो
absolutely.
उनके साथ खेलना हो गया, नहीं तो you take them for a walk, right? You just unwind
Right.
by doing that. I also recently, अभी 2-3 साल हो गया, I've started playing video games. तो PS5 खेलता हूँ थोड़ा.
Okay,
So
great, great.
that also helps a bit,
Yes.
right? Or else some good series. I like these thriller suspense wale series. So that also helps to take your mind off trading. नहीं तो
Right.
पूरा दिन अगर if you keep looking at the same thing, you end up being I mean, you lose your sanity, I would say, after a
Absolutely.
while.
Absolutely. Then you end up dreaming about stocks also,
करेक्ट करेक्ट, तो
stocks and
वो भी
charts, no?
होता है.
Okay. So, last question for the day.
Yeah,
Tell the viewers one mantra you live by that
right.
our audience can also take away from this session.
ओके. सो टू फेवरेट कोट्स है मोहित जी, जो मैं बोलना चाहूंगा. सो
Yes.
वन इज फ्रॉम चार्ली मंगर. तो बोलते हैं, द बेस्ट थिंग अ ह्यूमन कैन डू इज टू हेल्प अनदर ह्यूमन बीइंग नो मोर. राइट. जो अभी
Absolutely.
आप हम अभी कर रहे हैं, टू काइंड ऑफ गाइड देम and tell them to be a little cautious and read more before you invest.
Right.
पैसा सबको बनाना है. पैसा
Right.
बनेगा भी in the Indian markets in the long run, but don't be in that hurry to make it, right?
Right.
And one
Right.
more quote by Muhammad Ali, the boxer: service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth, right? So
Absolutely.
these are the things. So that is why even I keep on posting so much on my handle also, to let the retail know what is happening in the market so that
Yes.
they can benefit.
Yes.
सबको टिप्स चाहिए वो अलग बात है, बट देन आई यूजुअली रिफ्रेन फ्रॉम गिविंग एनी स्टॉक टिप्स, राइट? यू फर्स्ट अंडरस्टैंड द मार्केट. टिप तो अपने आप ही बन
Absolutely.
जाएगा, राइट?
Right. Right.
You
Right. Right.
understand the market, you can only generate that tip. You don't need
Correct.
someone else to give you that tip.
Correct. Correct.
So
So, really very thankful to you, Sandeep ji, for coming to the episode. And I hope a lot of people, they have benefited a lot from your views on the markets. And the most important thing is we have talked a lot about psychology, जो
yeah,
कि ultimately decide करेगा in the longer run whether you are going to make money in the markets or not.
right.
So, with that, I would like to wrap up. And again, once again, Sandeep ji, very,
Thank
very
you,
thank
Moji.
you
Yeah,
from myself and from the viewers also.
right. Thank you. It was a wonderful session. I hope people liked it. And also thank you, Moji,
Absolutely.
for
Thank you so